Evening, guys. So this evening we're working on some inversion prep again, and I want to work into the hips and the hamstrings. So it's really important in inversions to also have flexibility and lengthen the hamstrings, certainly when getting into our handstand practice. So today we're going to work into pressing into the hands from our forward fold. So really trying to lengthen those hamstrings whilst we're pressing the hands, taking a bit of weight into the hands. We're also going to work on our first balance. So we've been doing a lot of prep with our balances, and what I want to do this evening is introduce you to crow and how to work into it both when you're just starting out, but also the more advanced practice. So I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So let's get started. So I'd love for you to come to a standing position on the mat. Let's just move my camera a little so you can see me. So coming to wherever you want to on the mat, standing tall, really grounding down through the feet. I'm going to come into a forward fold. So reaching the arms up and folding forward, really keeping that back flat. And then placing the hands flat onto the mat. So from here, rocking backwards and forwards on the feet, really pressing the hips high. So in handstand or in our headstands, we're aiming to get the hips high, so really lifting through the hips. So when we prep into our handstand in later weeks, we're making sure that we're lifting through the hips rather than lifting the legs. Focus here as well on scooping in the belly. So you might have tried handstand before, maybe against a wall, and you're slamming into the wall, or you fall out of your handstand. It's really important here to really engage and scoop up the belly. So here, scooping up the belly, creating that space, really inhaling, scooping in the belly. That will create space to take us forwards into those hands. Bringing weight into the hands, just practicing at this stage to lengthen through those hamstrings. And from here, coming up onto the fingertips, and then I'd like you to take the right foot outside the right hand, left foot outside the left hand, bringing the sit bones back down. So this is our prep for crow pose. So with crow pose, it might be that this is your first time playing with crow pose, or perhaps you're not as confident in crow pose, so you just want to see how it feels. Again, we're going to try and put the weight into our hands, so perhaps starting by lifting those hips as we press the hands down, bringing the toes a little way in. And option here to take the knees outside onto the biceps, or traditionally we want to aim the knees into the armpits. We're looking forwards here, so looking forwards and place to maybe taking one foot off the mat, then the other, slowly, and really lifting those feet off the ground. Keep looking forward, scooping in the belly, and it might be you only hold it for a second, like that. If you come out of it, I'm always falling out of my inversions, and yoga, it teaches you that life lesson. You can always pick yourself up again and start over. So again, placing those hands flat on that, lifting those hips to try and get the knees into those armpits. Taking one toe off the mat, then the other, gazing forwards, and then reaching those feet up. So, see how you're doing in your crow pose there. If you feel like you're getting there, keep going, or perhaps coming back into your yogi squat. And also don't forget to breathe. So arm balances are great for taking your mind off the day, for working into those balances, perhaps going upside down eventually. But sometimes we forget to breathe. I'm a little out of breath now because we're using that strength. This is a bit of power yoga. This is a bit of challenge. So from here, we've practiced a bit into our crow. Now I'd like to see if you'd like to work into your side crow. So side crow, it's taking chaturanga arms. So chaturanga is when you hover to your low plank. So you're coming forward and you're bending at those elbows. So this is the arms that we want to get when we come into our side crow. So taking the hands to the front of the mat and we're taking the feet to the side. So remember, we want to come into those chaturanga arms. So we're leaning onto the side. And it might be that one side is easier than the other. I've picked my least dominant side to start with, so I might not get a lot of airtime. Keeping with those chaturanga arms, lifting the toes off the mat. And again, it might be that you don't get as much airtime on this than you'd initially hoped. But keep playing, keep pressing those hands into the mat as we lift the feet off. If you want to, try the other side. So placing the hands towards the back of the mat. Getting those chaturanga arms. And then bringing those knees onto the biceps. And we're pressing the mat away. So always pressing that mat away to create that lift. So see how you're getting on here. And it might be that this is a real challenge for you. It often can be a real challenge, weight-bearing exercises. And what I'd suggest you do is not just go straight into your arm balances, your inversions, but to mix up some other yoga poses in with these arm balances. So with that in mind, once you've finished practicing your arm balances, coming back into child's pose, taking a moment here. So child's pose opens the heart, also gently lengthens through the back. It's a restorative pose. And in a lot of the inversions, we're rounding the spine. So to take a counter pose to that, I'd love for you to come into puppy pose. So taking the hips above the knees, reaching forwards, aiming the chest towards the mat, perhaps taking the forehead onto the mat, maybe the chin. Taking a couple of breaths here. And finally, bringing the hands back one pace and coming into your downward facing dog. So in downward facing dog, you want to keep that chest opening feel, like in your puppy pose. And we're gazing back towards the thighs. Taking a couple more breaths here.
Bringing knees down. Coming back to child's pose.
And giving yourself a big pat on the back for taking this 10-minute inversion challenge. I'll see you next week. Bye.